I'm Jim Oakes. I'm chairman of Five Talents, and I'm going to tell you just a minute or two about how in the world I got into this stuff, and then we'll go into talking about the things that flow out of it. I should start by saying I am not a priest. If I'm a missionary in any sense, it's purely by accident. I'm a real person like yourself. I spent my career as a healthcare technology consultant. And frankly, when I would sit at my church and hear moments for mission and hear people talk about missionary needs, my eyes would glaze over and I would kind of think, okay, I hope they finish soon so we can get on to other stuff. Yeah, I had no intention of getting into any of this stuff. But Five Talents was actually founded at my church in Fairfax, Virginia. We went to Truro Church at the time. And when I first heard about a mission opportunity that took advantage of business and let business people be involved in mission, it kind of got my attention, and I started paying attention. And then some of you may know a woman by the name of Fran Boyle, who's a missionary who spent a lot of time in the Sudan over the years. Fran asked me to go to the Sudan with her, and I laughed at her. Pro tip, never laugh at a missionary who wants you to do something. So I explained carefully to Fran that I had no time for this. I had just started my own consulting firm. I had no way I could do it. I couldn't afford it. I had, yada, yada, yada. 6 weeks later, I was tromping around in the Sudan, and I was kind of wondering what happened here, So anyway, got involved in Five Talents. It has, I will tell you, it has changed my life. It has been an incredible journey. I've been able to visit most of our programs around the world, have made some of the best friends you can ever imagine. Was able to help a young priest in the Sudan gather cows for his bride price so he could get married. So that's a photograph of me in the South Sudan with a young priest by the name of Thomas Anai. And those cows are big, by the way.
Yes.
So, but enough about that. I want to introduce you to somebody. A young woman named Monica. Monica, she's a very pleasant young woman. She lives in a small village in rural Kenya. And she's about 2 hours up a dirt road from the nearest paved road. And if you know anything about that part of the world, you know that the key phrase is 2 hours away from a paved road. Because when you start getting up into the mountains, that's where you start seeing extreme poverty. And it's almost like going back in time in some ways, seeing that. Now, a few years ago, Monica observed that there weren't any petrol stations, gas stations, filling stations in the area. And so she started one. And she and her husband now operate a small gas station. And you see the way she sells gasoline in quantities as small as a cup. Now think about that a moment. It's mostly motorcyclists going by, the occasional automobile, that sort of thing. And they make a pretty good living at it. So they're doing pretty well, and her business is thriving, and her husband recently joined the business working for her. So they're doing pretty well. And they're expanding. So it's a nice little story. Now, what I want you to know is Monica hasn't always been that fortunate. Monica grew up in extreme poverty in Kenya. She grew up so poor that she says that at times growing up she only had one dress. I've never quite understood how that works, but that was the case. I mean, that's the level of poverty that she lived in. She wasn't able to finish school. It seemed like her life was on track to a particular place. She got married. She and her husband had 4 children. And it seemed like her life was going to be centered around just cooking and cleaning and doing household stuff and working in the family garden in the back and that sort of thing. But Monica was worried about her children. And she was worried about how to provide opportunity for them. And she wanted something more. She was ambitious. I mean, and we certainly didn't give her that ambition. God gave her the ambition. But she wanted something more. So she looked around. And she discovered that Five Talents had started a savings group program in her little village. And what we did was we went in partnership with the local Anglican Church, and we worked with the church to do a kind of a community needs survey and set up small groups ranging from maybe 10 to 25 or 30 people. So all of you might make a couple of small groups. And you'd get together and you'd kind of organize yourselves, and we're in the background doing the structure and the instruction and providing the templates for all of it. But what you're going to notice as I talk is we're not giving anybody money. So we're not we're not giving stuff to them, and you'll see why we think that's very important in a bit. But the group sort of does a needs assessment themselves, and they figure out what we need, and then we work with them to provide the training and the development and the education they need. So in her case, they needed to start with basic literacy and numeracy training. So they started, people who can't count get cheated in the marketplace.
Oh, gosh.
And it's just, just a basic thing. So we teach that sort of stuff. And so you go through that, and you learn those basic things, and while they're doing it, they start saving a little bit. One of the things we've discovered is that even the very poor out there have something. Everybody has something. And so they might save as little as 25 cents a week each, but they would put their money in, and they would watch that nest egg accumulate as and there are all kinds of procedures, by the way, when they start giving, when they give their money, they don't just put it on the table. There's a box, and the box locks, and it has 3 locks. So it takes 3 people to open the box up. And while one person is sitting there as the treasurer watching them put their money in, another person is standing at a blackboard writing down the amount that they're putting in. You with me? Okay. And any accountants in the room? Accountants love this stuff. I mean, double entry bookkeeping, just you're going to love it. You're gonna love it. So the rest of you bear with us, But anyway, then they tally up, they count the money at the end, and they add up the total on the blackboard, and they have to agree. If they don't agree, then they start over, and they wait until everything does agree. And so there are all these procedures put in place to make sure that the money that's donated stays with them. And then they'll go through a process of letting people apply for loans for various things. So members can apply to the group to borrow money from themselves, you with me, for a small business they want to start. So it might be for any number of things, and the number of businesses they have started would just astonish you. I mean, people come up with businesses that would never occur to me in 100 years because they know the local economy. So, in this case, Monica had never held a job before, and she had no experience with this, but she learned business in the group. I call it a kindergarten MBA. I mean, they kind of go through a basic set of training on what does it mean to operate a Christian business. What does a business plan look like? Why is it important to keep your personal money separate from your business money? How do you account for that? What are easy ways that someone that doesn't have access to sophisticated financial systems can kind of keep track of profit and loss and that sort of thing? So you go through all this sort of stuff. And she did that, and she did her survey of the market, and she sort of discovered then that there was nobody selling gasoline in the area. In her words, she said they were having to go very far to get the petrol. Mm-hmm. So she started her business with a loan of $20. And what she did was she bought a little cylinder and some rubber hose and some funnels and a little stop valve. So she could just go to a nearby village, nearby, it was about a couple hours away, but she could buy gasoline there, bring it back, and sell it at a small profit. And then she started developing from that. So what's happened now is that she has now, her latest venture was to buy a 5,000-liter storage tank, which she has put outside of, you can see her little shop there. As I said earlier, her husband is working with her / for her in this business. Most important, though, her children are all in school, and her oldest has started university. So you've seen a complete transformation of this young woman's life. Started with a combination of a very small loan from her group, a lot of ambition, and some training. And you put that mix together, and it has worked miracles. Now, not everybody in a group borrows money to start a business. Some people just want to save money. And the interest that Monica paid on her loan went to the group. None of this money comes from 5 Talents. None of it goes back to 5 Talents. So the people who are borrowing money are paying interest. That interest accrues to the group. And the people who are saving get dividends on their savings, just like a savings and loan association here would work. So it kind of works for everybody. Many of the groups also keep a caring fund. One of the factors that you have to be aware of in that part of the world is that life can be fragile. And your child might get sick and need medicine, or your son might break his leg and need to go to the doctor, or you might need money for school. The lists are endless. A member can apply to the group for an emergency loan, or in some cases a gift. And the group decides. We set the parameters up, we set the structure up, we help them write a constitution, but the group decides this. And so they become a caring group as well as a savings group. They minister to each other, they look out for each other, and they support each other. That also helps, by the way, the success of the businesses. Our business success rate is astonishing. The loan repayment rate runs around 99%. Because these folks all know each other, you know. And when somebody starts a business, they're vetting the business plan with the group. So it kind of is a built-in sort of a governor to keep somebody from starting an absolutely crazy business. I wish I'd had that when I'd started my business, you know. I wasn't that fortunate. So they find that they support each other, it works well, and it's able to make them kind of support each other as they go. So Monica is now doing well. Her average income, we figure, is about 20 times the average income of a small farmer in that area.
Oh, wow.
So that's not too bad for a first-time business owner. Would you agree? So, Five Talents has been operating in East Africa and elsewhere around the world, Myanmar, Bolivia, places like that, for about 20 years now. And I sometimes say that we've learned how to do it right by first having done it wrong. The professional staff at Five Talents does not like me saying that, because they say it makes it sound like we don't know what we're doing. And my answer is, well, you guys know what you're doing, but I make no such claim. You know, so we've kind of stumbled into the right way of doing things. We started out with a much more traditional model where we would go in and establish a loan pool of our money. And we would set that loan pool up under the control of local leadership, local bishop, whoever, and then people would come apply for loans. And we found that a couple of things happened with that. I mean, it worked, and it was successful in a small way, but it fostered a cycle of dependency. And it kept them thinking that these, the Swahili word is mzungu, these rich white foreign people, were coming in and somehow rescuing them. And that's not a healthy thing. It's certainly not the gospel. You know, and it also was true that we found at a very practical level, if you're a small person and have a small farmer or a loan recipient, and you have a choice between, do I repay this loan or do I buy meals for my children? That's an easy choice to make. And so the loan repayment wasn't where it ought to be, and we were constantly having to kind of replenish the loan pool. And frankly, the biggest thing to me was it was very hard to leverage, because to start a new program, you'd have to get a whole bunch of loan capital together again in order to start a new program. But since we have moved to the savings-led model, we're able to leverage our resources a lot better, and we've been able to, frankly, explode. We now have 15,000 savings clients in Kenya. And what the number that I love is that 5,000 of them have graduated from Five Talents. So we want to work ourselves out of business. I mean, we really do. We want these groups to get to a point that they're self-sustaining, self-perpetuating, and we can back away. And they can then operate on their own. And we're moving in that direction with the program in Kenya. In fact, Peggy and I are going to be going to Kenya next month for a kind of a graduation ceremony for a diocese. We now have programs in 2 entire dioceses that are self-supporting. And we are helping to sponsor a conference where we're going to have, I think, 25 diocesan bishops from around Kenya that want to come in and talk about how to start a Five Talents program in their diocese. So it's taken a long time to build the credibility and the track record and the methodology and the trustworthiness with the bishops and with the people there. But we're pretty excited about where that goes. But even though I'm talking about Kenya, I want you to know that we operate in a whole lot of other places. We have almost 50,000 clients in Burundi. We have almost 30,000 clients in South Sudan. As best we can tell, we are operating the largest community bank operation in the country. in South Sudan. Now, that's a low bar to get over. I understand that. But Faith McDonald is here. Faith, hi, how are you? It was great hearing you talk yesterday. Faith knows a lot about what's going on in Sudan and South Sudan, but I would say that our view is one of the ingredients that's going to be necessary to help South Sudan come to its feet as a sovereign nation is going to be programs that operate at the grassroots level to help people achieve an understanding of their dignity as human beings. And we are delighted with the way that program is working there, and we're grateful to be able to go there. And I'm grateful for the things I've learned about Dinka cows during the time that I've been going there. Now, our partnership with the Anglican Church is very important to us, and there are several reasons for that. Certainly, we want the blessing of the local bishop. In fact, we won't go anywhere without the blessing of the local bishop. The bishop has to invite us in, and we want to work in partnership with the bishop. At a very practical level, frankly, in a lot of places where we're operating, the church is the most stable institution there is. You know, governments kind of come and go, frankly. And sometimes this political party, and I'm not trying to talk politics here, I'm just trying to say that's reality. Sometimes this party supports something, that party doesn't, but the church is going to be there. Now, we are not in and of ourselves an evangelical tool. Our programs are deliberately open to everybody. And we want it that way, the bishops want it that way, the church wants it that way, because we see that, frankly, as a way for the church to serve the community and a church to serve the people. And for people to start becoming aware of what can happen when you bring people together. The retired bishop of Thika Diocese in Kenya is on our international board, a brilliant man by the name of Gideon Gathika. And he has a saying, and I don't know if it's original with him, but he says, a hungry stomach has no ears.
Yes.
And people that are starving can't hear the gospel.
Yes.
You know, and he says, as with this program, as you can help people, we don't give them dignity. God has given them dignity to start out with. But we help them understand that they have that dignity. And as they discover that dignity and come to their feet with enough to eat and with funds to support their families, they can hear the gospel. They can hear the other things. Bishop Gideon and other bishops have told us that they can tell if they walk into a village where 5 Talents is operating, because the individuals have more dignity and they're able to live in a better way. The families are stronger, the churches are stronger, and the communities are stronger. So we see that as a way to build things up. There are some corollary benefits that we did not expect. About 80% of our clients are women. Now, we did not set out to serve women particularly, and I hope I don't offend anybody by saying that. We just wanted to serve the poor and the people that were the least served. Well, it turns out in the developing world, who is that mostly? It's women. And so they are about 80% of our clients. And because we're going in with an economic message and not we're going to help you be better than your husband or any of that sort of stuff. Husbands tend to be pretty supportive of it because they see their wife now producing income and not just being a quote drain on the family. Their words, not mine. But as a result, they're pretty supportive of it. We find that it gives women opportunities for leadership, which accrues to their benefit and frankly the whole community's benefit, as we see women going into positions of power and leadership in these areas. So we see a lot that comes out of that. And we love seeing those stronger families. Now, sometimes people ask me, wouldn't it be easier just to send money? And in some ways it would. But I read an essay last week from the World Health Organization, WHO, and they said they had done a survey asking people what extreme poverty means. And I'm talking living on less than $1 or $2 a day. Mm-hmm. Now, when you ask a group like this what that means, you kind of get, I'm guessing, I won't take time to ask you, but I'm guessing most of us would say things like, well, it means not having enough to eat, or it means not having good clothes, or it means not having money to send your children to school. Would you agree with those statements? That's what it means. They ask a similar question to people in the developing world who are actually living on that kind of money. And you know what the consistent answer that came through was, what does it mean? Was shame. They were ashamed of being poor. And handouts don't alleviate that shame. Handouts continue to foster the culture of dependency. And we are finding a way to break that, and a way to let them come to their feet and understand their dignity as a child of God. And that's what we are so proud of, the Five Talents. And we need help. And I'm very brazen in my asking for help. We have some literature. I'd love to, I'll open it up to questions in just a second, but we need to tell our story more. We have all these bishops in Kenya that want to see the program expand there. I've been delighted to meet a couple of bishops here at New Wineskins that want to start new programs or want to talk about starting new programs, and we love that. But it costs money to do that. And our money comes from people like you. We don't have rich benefactors in the background. We don't have, unfortunately, we don't have any sugar daddies or anybody showering down millions of dollars on us. And frankly, we do a lot with a little. We have now, we think today, we have about 120,000 people in savings groups around the world. And when we total up the cumulative number of people we've served, we know that in the developing world, one person with a job generally is supporting 5 other people. So we think we've touched about 1 million people in 20 years. And we're delighted. I mean, we're delighted. But there's still a lot of poor people out there. There's still a lot of people that need to be reached. And a lot of people that need this foundation so they can hear the good news of Jesus Christ. So thanks for coming. And let me open it up to questions. Yes, sir. In the back.
What is the success rate of the businesses that are starting?
I can't tell you that it's about 90% plus. I can't give you a precise number. We track most closely the repayment rates to the group, which are virtually 100%. But I do know that in some cases, people have had a business go bad and they've repaid their loan anyway because they felt the responsibility to the group. So that's as close an answer as I can give you.
And then just to follow up, have you been seeing a decent amount of potential for scalability in the businesses, or is there usually kind of a cap?
As a friend of mine says, that's a start of the session question, not an end of the session question. Let me just, but it's a good question. It's an important question. We focus on the grassroots stuff. I mean, that's one of the things we've discovered as Five Talents is that it's very important for us to be clear on who we are and what we do. And what we do is the grassroots stuff, and we know how to do that. But it does happen, not infrequently, that Monica's next business expansion is going to be an interesting case because she's beyond our capability at this point, which is a great problem. I mean, don't get me wrong. But banking still tends to be, commercial banking still tends to be unavailable for people like her, both because she's a woman, frankly, and because banks in that part of the world tend to want to invest in hard assets, real estate, that sort of thing. So there are things called SACOs, savings and credit organizations, that form that are one step above us. In fact, when we're in Kenya next month, one of the dioceses that has outgrown us is forming a SACO for those groups. And we encourage that, but we encourage it from a step removed because we're not bankers. And I don't want to misrepresent myself to those folks as having expertise in commercial banking. So there are steps up that move beyond us.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Bisoke from Democratic Republic of Congo.
Welcome.
Yes, thank you so much. The work we are doing, first of all, I said thank you so much. Because what we are living, really, the women are suffering a lot, like in my country. Then also, they're the people of Mansi.
Right.
They're the people who are taking care of the family as well.
Right.
You can see, like, where I come from, there is a lot of widows. A lot of the family are suffering because of polygamous, because of the war, the husband passed away. My question is about the work you are doing. Even us back home in Congo, you are in Sudan there, you're in Kenya, us in Congo. Then why, but I don't know how now, because I know you have done a lot with some of the countries. Then the way now you have a workshop in Kenya. Why not include Congo as well in that program? Because really, it's a very good work you are doing. If you can touch some of our women really to be
Thank
able,
you.
yeah.
Let me just say I did not pay him to ask that question. But I may pay you. The answer is we have actually just, I'm sorry, his question was, why don't we start this in the Congo? And why don't we make this training available to people in the Congo, because the need here is very great. And in fact, we have just started a program in the Congo. So in the far northeast, this is going to check my geographical knowledge, forgive me. The far northeastern diocese is Aru. Aru?
Yes.
Okay, we have started a program there with Bishop Joseph. And we have now, under Bishop Joseph's leadership, 60 small groups starting.
Yeah.
We've been able, by the way, to leverage some of the things that are already going on there. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, they speak, in addition to their local languages and all that, they speak French.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So I don't speak French. So our local program in Burundi, we have a number of trainers operating there. Burundi is a French-speaking country.
Yes.
So as we have started the training in Congo, we've brought the trainers from Burundi, so they have a common language to learn in. And by the way, the leverage we get, I keep talking about doing a lot with a little. The leverage we're able to get by using local trainers instead of having to fly people over from the U.S. is astonishing. So we do that. We want to do more in the Congo. Congo is an example of a place where we think we can operate in a country that's still having a lot of war issues, a lot of health issues, a lot of other things. So we want to do more there. Okay, yes ma'am.
Couple questions. One, I think that kindergarten MBAs need to be taught in America, because I can tell you right now that people don't understand that basic concept here. Right? Number one, so everybody can use it.
I live in Washington, D.C. My lips are sealed.
Very important people.
As you know, that if the money doesn't come from yourselves, you don't feel the need to pay it back.
That's right.
Okay, so moving forward. But the idea, I've done a lot of, je parle français aussi, so je travaille on Okay, so I did work in Abidjan, in Côte d'Ivoire, working in development years ago. I came here specifically for the BAM meetings because I have a couple of businesses, and my heart is for business and missions. My question for you, you're saying up there saying, we don't have any sugar daddies. I'm not a sugar mama. But I am asking, what if there are businesses here that are primarily makers who could be, like the businesses here, like the gas and stuff, these are all practical, very specific community African needs, right? Are there people like Monica or companies that are saying making things that are now, like we created stuff in Abidjan with Muslim converts, women who would have no access to anything else. So we taught them how to crochet and make rugs out of like a piece of wood and out of scraps that the tailors were throwing out. So I was there for 3 months, I left. They don't need me, they're still doing it. Which is, that's...
And isn't that a great feeling?
It's amazing, because that's, again, like taught earlier, we're not God's gift to man, Jesus is. So that being said, what about people like myself who have existing businesses, who would love to promote either designs or ideas, want to partner, maintain the integrity and the individuality of those small businesses, but then import those things to the States? Is there any partnership? Anybody growing like a Monica and in 5 towns that can use that?
So let me unpack that. Did you all hear the question? Okay. So part of the question was, how do we feel about maybe partnering with some of our clients over there to import some of their goods that they make, and to help connect people here that want that product with somebody over there making that product, that kind of thing. Is that a fair summarization? I think it's a good idea. It's one that we're cautious about, and let me tell you why. I am very aware that, rightly or wrongly, when I stand in front of a group in South Sudan and talk about somebody who started a business doing this, the next day there are going to be 50 people out there trying to start that business. And they're going to say that Kawaji told me that I needed to start that business. And one of the things I've had to learn is to keep, as much as I can, keep myself out of it. Because I don't want them doing something because I said it was a good idea. I want to see them doing something because they've surveyed their community and see that it was a good idea. And so we're cautious about that.
So I'm saying an existing business. We're not saying like, oh, you should start making this because of the hopes. Because like you said, then everybody comes to you and then it doesn't work out, they'll blame you. And then that means your integrity as a business.
Right. Now, we have some partner organizations we work with that kind of foster the kind of work that we work with World Concern as an example. They're a Seattle-based Christian ministry, some of you may know, wonderful people. And they will actually do some of that, of setting up things for export. And we'd love to talk. I mean, we'd love to see.
Does Seeds of Hope kind of do something like that, but they're more artisan, right? Have you heard of Seeds of Hope? Because they do a very similar thing where they partner up with the local community that they do artisan work, like whether it's like a rug like we talked about, and they will import that product into the warehouses in the United States and then sell it all around the United States. So you might look into Seeds of Hope because they kind of do that kind of program.
Yeah. So I think there's some good things that can come out of that. I absolutely do not condemn organizations that do that sort of thing, but we're careful about how we do it. Yes, sir.
This is a history question. When did you switch models from savings or from lending to savings model?
About 2007, 2008,
Okay.
something like that.
Okay.
It was not something that we did overnight. I mean,
Yeah.
we had loan-based programs out there. We couldn't just see you later, guys. So
Which program is Monica in?
she's in a savings program.
No, which village or what?
She's in the well-known village of Thungururu. Kenya. Hey, my wife's been to Thungururu. It's a neat little place. Yes, sir.
I've never been to Guru.
Oh, okay.
You mentioned Monica. Could you maybe share how long it started, Monica? How long it took Monica to get where?
That's a good. His question was how long did it take Monica to kind of go through that cycle? Not that long. I actually, by coincidence, I went with a team member to Thungururu in 2010, and we did what we call BAM training, businesses mission training, and the church brought together 50 or 60 people from the village, and we did a 2-day seminar on my kindergarten MBA thing, and over the next year, Five Talents started the savings groups and started recruiting people for savings groups. So that would have been 2011, 2012. I believe Monica took her first loan from her group in 2013. So I would say this is 6 years later now. So Monica's done a whole lot better developing her business than I have in mine. Just take that for what it's worth. So maybe she'll teach it. Actually, we did take advantage of that class and have done more of it, but we found a couple of community leaders to help teach the business's mission training. Because there are plenty of very capable people out there. They just need. So yes, sir.
Who is it that usually teaches the training? Is it a staff member of Five Talents? Is it a volunteer, church member?
It's a blend of people. We try as much as we can to use local leaders to teach, and there are lots of reasons for that. In Kenya, in particular, we've been able we've been blessed, I would say, with the development of some local leadership that's really talented, and so they do the majority of the training, and they work with the savings groups one-on-one. The facilitators are out there helping them. In some cases, it'll be foreign people like me, some of the staff, that sort of thing, and in some cases, volunteers. We love to have people go with us to various strange places. Now, I would admonish anybody, we don't do any business as mission training in places like Paris and London and that sort of stuff. I mean, we tend to go to pretty outlandish places, but it is life-changing. I'll tell you that. Yes, ma'am?
What are your greatest needs? What are your greatest needs right now?
I would say at the top of the list, we need prayer. Number one, prayer. Number two is awareness. I mean, we still find that it's a wonderful thing that we're doing a lot with the little, but we're tiny. And the needs are just overwhelming. So we need help finding ways to move into new dioceses. And what we've been able to do in a couple of cases, we were able to partner with the church in Dallas this past year, who made a decision to work with us on a 5-year plan to completely staff and equip a program in a new diocese in Kenya, in their case. And that was just a godsend for us.
So how much money are you talking about?
In this case, it's probably going to be over 5 years between $75,000 and $100,000.
So how much a year? Would
Probably $15,000 to $20,000 a year. And that's at the diocesan level. If you want to start on smaller increments, you can certainly do that. I mean, down to $1,000 will help set up a loan group. So we can operate at different stages, but we are desperate for multi-year pledges because this is a multi-year operation, you know. And so we love one-time donations. Don't get me wrong, but we really love people that are willing to sign up for. We love all our donors, but we love for people to sign up for maybe a 5-year period of time. And I was yes, ma'am.
So that being said about it being a savings, right, versus a donation, is the donation in the initial community like the seed money, and then that allows people to start putting in their savings?
No. And
So the two are separate.
Okay.
I'm glad you asked that because it lets me clarify. No money, none of our money goes into the hands of our clients.
Gotcha.
What the money pays for is the trainers, the infrastructure, all of that stuff that goes into it. In some ways, it can be as expensive as it would be just to put money in their hands, but it's much more leverageable, and it maintains their dignity as it goes forward. So that's why we think that's so important. Yes, sir.
Jim, for those who haven't read it, there's a book called When Helping Hurts.
Yes.
And near the end of the book, it does talk about exactly what you guys do.
Exactly.
And it works.
Yeah. The book he was talking about, if you couldn't hear it, is a book that I recommend highly. It's called When Helping Hurts.
Yes.
And it talks about, and there are other books, there's another book out there called From Dependence to Dignity that talks about the same thing, that if you really want to help people come to their feet, you don't do, now, if somebody's house is burned down, you help them rebuild their house. I'm not arguing against relief or against that kind of help. But if you want to help somebody come to their feet long term, you want to do it by helping them help themselves. And thanks for bringing that up. Other questions? Yes.
Sorry,
Oh, you're fine.
So have you noticed anyone here in the States with the issue of resettled immigrants? You know, we're in Savannah, Georgia. We have a very large, we're no longer refugees, we're resettled immigrants who, like a lot of Arab women, Iranians who are looking for work, and we've had a couple women in our church get massively burned out because, like you said, you know who you guys are, and you make very clear to the community what you're about. So that kind of, it's kind of like, because that's a brilliant business model. Have you seen anyone in the churches in the States who work with resettled individuals?
I don't know of, well, I know of, we don't do that. I don't know, I couldn't tell you right offhand who is. I know there's people working with immigrants and that sort of thing. We do work with refugees and internally displaced persons over there. In fact, we are one of the very few organizations that has been allowed by the government of South Sudan into their displaced persons camps. And so we are able to work with the displaced people there. I think you heard one of the speakers this morning talk about that. That was Jerry Kramer. And by the way, I agree with Jerry. The average length of time that somebody spends in an internally placed person, a refugee camp, is 18 years. And so what we're doing is we're going and helping them set up small businesses and schools, frankly. We don't set up the school, they set up the school.
What talents have been over there?
Right.
Okay, Mosul?
Yeah, no, we've not been in Mosul. We've not been in Mosul. I've talked with Jerry. I've actually given him my curriculum, our curriculum. So yeah, we know Jerry. So okay, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.